Speed Demos Archive has only one ICO speedrun on record. It's from March 21st, 2006, by a runner named Kevin and Hasa Wong. It's the earliest full recording of a single segment run that still exists today, and it boasts a time of 1 hour, 51 minutes, and 4 seconds. Of this run, he claimed this is several minutes faster than the previous best-known world record, which was done by some Japanese guy segmented. And Hasa had reason to be proud, too. His run was very entertaining. It was creative. It was skillful. And it was daring. The only problem is, it wasn't even close to the JP World Record. In fact, it wasn't even the same version of the game. On March 30th, 2002, less than 4 months after ICO's release in Japan, the Japanese DVD magazine GameWave showcased the game with a, quote, time attack from an unnamed runner. To avoid spoilers, this 4-minute clip only showed a few of the strategies the runner used. Runners still employ a lot of these today. Things like leaving Yorda in the trolley station and riding the trolley alone, dropping down to Yorda in East Arena after turning off the water slide, and lighting and throwing the bomb at Water Tower without swapping out the sword for a stick. But more impressive than the strats themselves was the final time. It was a 1 hour, 40 minute, 24 second run. To put in perspective just how amazing this time was, this early on, here's 3 things to consider. First, another Japanese runner named Slaughter002 struggled between 2009 and 2010 to get a 1:49.39 in a live run. That's over 9 minutes slower from that run in 2002 by an experienced runner 8 years later. Second, in 2002, Fumi Hosokawa posted on the website themagicbox.com that he could get an ICO run time of around 1 hour 45 minutes. It's clear that Fumi had a strong connection with the game by noting, "I feel bad when pulling too hard on Yorda's arm. That's how convincing the AI is." When told of the 1 hour 40 minute time on the GameWave DVD, he conceded. Guess it's too late to go for the record. Fumi saw that time and just flat out gave up. Third, the time of 1:40.24 is so solid that if it were submitted on speedrun.com, it would have still been in 3rd place for its category on Star Wars Day 2020. That's over 18 years later. This was more than just skill. It's safe to say this run from 2002 had many strategies other runners had no idea about. Strategies that, since the full run did not exist, were forever lost to the community. Well, they would have been, if it weren't for Magette. In November 2008, Magette posted a full speedrun of ICO to YouTube that blew everyone's minds. Beyond replicating the types of time saves featured in the GameWave DVD, this run also revealed ways to skip almost every shadow encounter in the game. To understand the scope of what will get accomplished, it'll help to cover his run as a sort of mini walkthrough. And since the footage isn't all that great, we'll add a useful map and include gameplay from newer runs when helpful. ICO opens with a cinematic sequence that shows a young boy with horns being taken to a castle to be sacrificed to the sorceress queen who resides there. As his captors leave him to die, ICO's shoddy sarcophagus tips over, freeing him to move about the castle. ICO soon meets Yorda, the magical princess. After releasing her from her birdcage, he defeats the first of many shadow creatures with 4 swift swings. ICO and Yorda soon realize that they'll need each other if they're going to escape. ICO has the brains, the brawn, and the parkour skills necessary to defeat the chasms and solve puzzles. Yorda has the ability to open idle doors, use force lightning, and chase birds and, point to things? The pair then make their way across a crumbling bridge, open another door, activate a spiral staircase, and here's where the beauty of Magette's run begins to unfold. Magette avoids a shadow here by immediately taking Yorda up the staircase. Then, Magette leaves her at a trolley station, makes his way to the roof above, takes the trolley ride, does a little platforming, drops down a crane, connects a bridge, and finally doubles back to get Yorda. Since shadow encounters are usually triggered by Yorda's presence, Magette completely bypasses 3 shadows in the trolley station and 4 more on the roof above. After solving a puzzle to make a ramp for Yorda, Magette then ignores 5 shadows in the chandelier room by simply running to the next idle doors, which activates Yorda's force lightning and vaporizes the shadows and their spawning pools. He skips 3 more shadows in the drawbridge area the same way. At this point, Ico and Yorda waste too much time staring, and the castle gates close in front of them. This gives the queen enough time to show up, like a helicopter parent, to tell Ico that he cannot date her daughter. The main objective of the game now is to activate the east and west reflectors so that the main gate can be reopened. The trek to the east reflector begins with a quick puzzle to gain access to the graveyard, at which point Magette's shadow skips kick into high gear. Here, he skips 9 total shadows. That's right, 9 shadows in the graveyard, by leaving Yorda on the second pressure plate as the first battle spawns, then letting her get grabbed as the second battle starts and overlaps with the first one already in progress. Incredibly, Magette just ignores these shadows, doesn't get hit a single time, and escapes with Yorda to the next area. This is a textbook graveyard skip that, and trust me when I say this, does not always go as planned. After solving the dark room puzzle, Magette avoids 8 more shadows, just pulling Yorda up as the shadows fall below, and reaching the idle doors for another zap attack. Then, following the iconic windmill puzzle, Magette cleverly dodges 2 more shadows in the sunbeam area by hiding Yorda underneath an overhang, thereby keeping all the shadows stuck above her. By leaping off of a pressure plate right as it activates, Magette's able to take Yorda through the gate before it closes. This is instead of first killing the shadows then calling for her to come through on her own. He then makes his way back to the opening above and once again does a mad dash to the idle doors so Yorda's magic can do the dirty work. This is, by far, the most unreliable skip in the game, as any number of things can go wrong, and it's amazing that he pulled it off in a run that also had a great graveyard skip. The following stone pillar section starts with 3 shadows that can't be skipped. But after this, Magette runs past 4 more shadows that spawn at the bottom of the stone pillar, and then skips 2 more shadows at the stone pillar exit with another idle door. Now, Ico and Yorda enjoy some well-earned downtime on the way to East Reflector. After fighting another unskippable shadow in the East Arena, Magette encounters 4 more shadows in the East Idle Stairs that Yorda spawns when activating a giant staircase. He skips them by taking Yorda back into the previous room. Without Yorda, the shadows despawn and Ico can go back and open the big circular windows without any hassle. He must move fast though, because leaving Yorda alone in a different room for too long will spawn an unscripted shadow that can then cost the runner time or flat out end the run. With a couple more puzzles to solve, Ico and Yorda activate the reflector, powering the left side of the main gate. Magette then skips 4 shadows that spawn upon exiting East Arena by simply taking Yorda back into the courtyard before proceeding to go up the tall ladder back outside, opening a drawbridge that will help them slowly make their way to the West Reflector. Magette then skips 6 new shadows in the chandelier room just by running past them, as the pair make their way to the waterfall section. The casual player will remember this as the area with the 2 hardest timing jumps in the game, the pump jump and the watermill jump. With those out of the way, Magette skips 3 shadows at the bottom of the waterfall section by calling for Yorda, and most of the time she runs past them while you reach the idle door. It's one of the easier skips, but it's not a given. On to the gondola section, where a swarm of 8 shadows spawns after Yorda approaches a newly opened drawbridge. Magette skips them once while heading across the bridge, and then again as they race to access the elevator on the floor above. One unlucky shadow manages to catch up to them, and Magette makes quick work of him. Then, in the water tower area, where any misstep can end a run, Magette also executes a bomb toss without lighting the bomb with a stick, as seen in the GameWave clip. Then he skips 2 more shadows by getting Yorda quickly across the other side of the chasm to the idle doors. Now it's deja vu, as the couple enjoys another calm walk, serenaded by the melodious sounds of the forest while they head towards the West Arena entrance. In the process of activating the West Reflector, Magette skips 16 total shadows. He skips 8 in the arena by quickly heading to the idle stairs room, 8 more in the idle stairs by heading back to the arena, the first 8 again as he escorts Yorda to leave her at the water slide, the second 8 again later when taking Yorda across the drawbridge, and, in the scariest skip of the game, avoids those 8 West Arena shadows one last time while trekking across the skybridge to the idle doors. This skip is 3/4 of the way through the game, and it can flat out end a run.
No! Stop. No! Yorda, no! I was trying so hard to make that work.
For newer runners, it's straight up horrifying, myself included.
Alright, this part's real stressful for me. We have to do this, like, run along these platforms. Ooh, we got caught there, that's not good. And they can just grab her and end it. There's, like, nothing you can do. Ooh, come on. Oh, thank God. That was one of the things I was worried about.
And when a runner manages to fight their way through an early grab, it is exhilarating.
Yes! Yes!
Now, back to Magette's run. He skips 6 shadows in the chandelier room one more time as they make their way back to the main gate, which is now fully powered up. Our heroes can taste freedom, but once again, Queen Karen intervenes and Yorda says these unforgettable words as they get separated. 4 sailboat, lizard-eating seagulls. From here, Ico makes his way through the underbelly of the castle, scales some cliffs, finds the He-Man sword, fights 53 shadows, stabs the queen, and the credits roll. After the credits, he finds Yorda on the beach. This is where the game provides you with a final total in-game time. All things told, Magette's run was a 1:32:54. That's 7.5 minutes faster than the run from 2002. On one hand, Magette showed us a run that boggled our imagination. For those who lost count, and I don't blame you if you did, he skipped 83 out of 89 total shadows. But on the other hand, there was now a blueprint readily available for all to see. And so, it was only a matter of time before someone would come along and say, hey, I bet I can beat that, and push the game even further. Ico is a masterpiece that still holds up to this day in its gorgeous design, its haunting soundscape, and minimalistic storytelling, as any number of YouTube videos will tell you. However, this early PS2 game does show its age with the 3 C's: the camera, the corners, and the controls. Unlike Shadow of the Colossus and The Last Guardian, other games made by the same team, the camera in Ico cannot turn in 360 degrees around the character like a Michael Bay movie. You can look around, but the camera runs on rails relative to Ico's position, more like a movie camera on a track that's following an actor. This makes it quite difficult for casual players to do something as simple as running in a straight line, since the camera is constantly switching angles on you, sometimes slowly.
Where's the door? Where's the door? The camera! No! Stay away from my girl!
And sometimes quickly.
No! Why did he jump off? The camera reversed my input.
If that's not frustrating enough, the corners in this game are deceptively bulky, with architecture and gates often having hitboxes that exceed their visual representations.
Can I just say that I got the ladder immediately, which is great. I got up the chain, and then I bumped
just couldn't get out the door.
both sides of the door frame. So the hardest part of that room for
Was
me
getting out the door.
was getting out of a door. I know how doors
Yep.
work in real life. This should not be difficult.
Now, let's add Ico's own movement restrictions, such as not being able to change directions mid-air or quit out of an attack combo animation once it's started. Controlling Ico feels like, well, let's hear how Bucci describes it in her 50Hz run at SGDQ 2020.
How would you describe trying to control Eco in this game? What's it like?
It's like a sack of potatoes, really.
It's like trying to roll around or drag a sack of potatoes.
Its momentum is so weird. Like if you try to zigzag around, when you're pressing the opposite direction, you still have momentum from the one direction you were holding. So it's like doing a very weird movement.
So there you have it, a sack of potatoes. But what would it look like if someone were to take that sack of potatoes and try to throw a perfect spiral? Or perhaps more importantly, what would it sound like? What you're looking at on the right is clips from a runner whose handle on Nico Video is Eco. Since we don't know anything else about him, let's call him Mr. Eco. What you're hearing is yells. As far as we know, Mr. Eco was the first person to figure out that when Eco yells for Yorda, his feet pick up the pace just a tad. Over the course of the birdcage section, where Eco goes up to get Yorda, then has to come back down, those yells provide a NOS boost that add up to over 10 seconds difference. Altogether, we're looking at easily half a minute save time just by remembering to press R1 at certain points in the run. Another way Mr. Eco saved time was by having better knowledge of shadows overall. In this unskippable fight, the Stone Pillar section, he focuses on the smaller shadow, while Magette takes out the bigger one first. That's because the third shadow spawns not based on when both are defeated, but when the smaller shadow gets dusted. Thus, Mr. Eco sees the third shadow pop up immediately after killing Big Chungus, while Magette gets a breather. Mr. Eco finds another small time save in the realization that pulling objects, such as cubes, is faster than pushing them. Here you can see him making his way through the Sunbeam area, back to the Stone Pillar section, shaving off a couple seconds by pulling the cube first, as well as by jumping from one square earlier. Now, add to his understanding of shadow encounters a better knowledge of Yorda's AI as well. Here at the area right before the pump jump and watermill, you can see Magette struggling to get Yorda up the ladder. That's because she won't climb up until Eco has a certain height above her. Her AI says, nope, occupado. Mr. Eco, on the other hand, waits till he's at the top of the ladder to call Yorda, and in doing so saves another 12 seconds. Anyone willing to comb through his run will find other nuggets like this, such as how Mr. Eco squeezes in a jump to the platform after his bomb toss at the water tower before the cutscene, or how he jumps right to the chain in the gears section underneath the castle instead of climbing up a pipe and jumping backwards to it. But the real joy of this run is the death jumps. Places where he risks huge time losses to only trim a few measly seconds. There's one at the Stone Pillar, another at the beginning of the water tower section, and how about not one but 2 jumps at the Cliffs of Insanity, when you're only about 10 minutes away from the credits. Like I said, a potato sack spiral. Finally, as the extremely rich icing on the cake, Mr. Eco came up with a much faster way to deal with the 53 shadows that must be defeated before the queen fight. Rather than waiting up by Yorda for all the shadows to come to him, Mr. Eco found a sweet spot right in the middle of the altar area that gives both less distance for the shadows to travel to reach him and traps them in the corner between the wall and steps so they fall victim to swipes of the sword. This saved him a whopping 1 minute and 20 seconds over Magette's run. Talk about finishing strong. And the duration of his fight is still top-notch even by today's standards. In the end, Mr. Eco also perfectly performed every shadow skip Magette did, on top of finding ways to shave seconds off nearly every area of the map, with better fights, more optimized movement, and crazy jumps. and those seconds added up to a time of 1:29:46 on April 7th, 2011. But he wasn't finished yet. We haven't even been looking at his fastest run, a time of 1:29:06 that followed 6 months later, a world record that would stand for almost 4 years. Sadly, unlike Magette's popular YouTube videos, Mr. Ico's run was hidden away on Nico Video, averaging only 3K views per part. This is especially tragic, given that his world record run contained commentary explaining his strategies and showing off his immense knowledge of the game. Until pretty recently, the Team Ico speedrun community had no idea about this epic run or its wealth of knowledge. But one man had found it back in 2015 and took full advantage of it. And his name was Karakusa. Before we look at what Karakusa did to keep pace with Mr. Ico, you should know that there's a reason we're only seeing Japanese runners up to this point. As mentioned in the intro, the US got an unpolished version of the game. It was a rushed release with a plethora of differences. The three most significant for speedrunning are as follows. First, a couple of the puzzles were still unfinished. So, for example, there's no pump jump or watermill, which isn't so bad. But there's also no drawbridge outside the spiral staircase, which is pretty brutal. Because it's just flat out gone, potential US runners didn't have the early shortcut we talked about in Magette's run. Instead, they had to fight the shadows in the trolley station and on the roof above, and take Yorda with them to the trolley, move the crane to get Yorda on it, and then move it again before helping her off. This is a major time difference. Second, many of the cutscenes in the US version can't be skipped. This not only adds more time to an already longer run, but it also makes some shadow skips impossible, like the skip at the East Idle Stairs. By the time Ico can move again, once all the animations are finished, his head start at taking Yorda to the ladder is severely diminished. Third, the shadows weren't balanced yet. In this version they have nearly double the hit points, are much more aggressive, fly faster when they've grabbed Yorda, and oh yeah, the shadow spiders can hit Ico, even when he's laying on the ground. You might just want to look away here, during the US version's rendition of the West Arena Skybridge skip. Yeah, good luck hitting that even 50% of the time. Now, add to all that the fact that the US version doesn't provide an in-game time at the end, and you really end up with a completely different category, and an ugly cover to boot. So hey, congrats Kevin and Hasa Huang. You actually did have an Ico world record. Unfortunately, he stopped his video at the Queen Stab, not the beach run, so his run is incomplete by the current standards. Had he let it run through the credits and met Yorda at the beach, his final time would have been closer to a 2:03 rather than a 1:51. Nevertheless, his run is still worth checking out, as is the current ntsc-u world record held by Gooperman. As you can see, this isn't a very popular category. The main reason there are so few runs, however, isn't the greater difficulty, nor is it the ugly cover. As unfinished as it was, the US version is still pretty amazing, and has quite a few unique tricks up its sleeve. But in 2011, Bluepoint did a remastered version of Ico for PS3 that's basically just a high-res reskin of the Japanese version of the game. This put all potential Ico runners around the world on a level playing field. Shizuku, a US runner, was the first to speedrun Ico on PS3. His runs featured helpful comments and a relaxed demeanor.
See how fast you can get up in this game?
Shizuku wasn't going for any records, he was just running the game because he loved it. Still, he managed a respectable time of 1 hour, 46 minutes, and 22 seconds on June 29, 2015, followed shortly by a 1 hour, 40 minute, 51 second time on February 23, 2016. Not that far away from the 2002 run mentioned in part 1. But in between those two PBs came a run like nothing YouTube had ever seen before. A run that for years would be considered the perfect run. A run that combined the popularity of Magette's run with the skills of Mr. Ico's, had amazing Yorda and Shadow RNG, and glorious high-res recording. But there's something else that set Karakusa's run apart. It had swag. As entertaining as it is, Karakusa's run did have a few hiccups. He failed to do a Yorda ladder drop when exiting East Arena, which sometimes causes Yorda to forget her purse at the cost of 10 to 20 seconds. After a rogue shadow encounter, he had some trouble re-gripping the crank at the elevator that takes you up to the water tower section. And there were a few other tiny mistakes here and there. So why did people call it the perfect run? Well, getting all the early shadow skips combined with his high-risk play and insane movement made this a very intimidating run to begin with. From his start to East Arena Idle Doors, his time is nigh untouchable. Also, until somewhat recently, the PS3 version had a separate leaderboard. So for several years, as a couple more runners joined the ranks, all anyone really saw was the 12-minute gap between first and second place. Furthermore, people didn't even know about Mr. Ico or his influence at this time. So for all anybody knew, Karakusa just came up with all this himself. He was a god, and all other runners were mere mortals, struggling to get their sack of potatoes across the finish line without dying, and hopefully getting 2 of the opening 3 RNG shadow skips. Now, when it was later proved that Bluepoint's 2011 remaster was actually identical to the Japanese PS2 version of the game, the leaderboards on speedrun.com would be combined to include Magette's and Sloter's runs. This at least showed a smaller gap between first and second. And now we've come full circle, back to Star Wars Day 2020. If we include Mr. Ico and the GameWave run, Japanese would have 1st through 4th place, and an uncontested hold on the world record for over 19 years. But on Cinco de Mayo, someone small started something big.
When we met, you were in a birdcage. You made the cutest parakeet.
You are listening to the musical stylings of one Sancho Panda, who enjoys making parody songs of the video games he plays, among other things.
Yorda, please open doors for me, Yorda.
Like many during the start of the COVID pandemic, this 40-something family man found himself in lockdown and between jobs. Needing a new hobby to help keep himself sane, he turned to his favorite game of all time. You guessed it, Ico. On April 12, 2020, he hopped into the Team Ico Speedruns Discord to say that he wanted to speedrun the game. At that time, as FoxyZilla noted in his reply, the Discord was mostly dedicated to Shadow of the Colossus. But when Sancho started to log his quote-unquote progress in the Discord, others in the community started to chime in and cheer him on, happy that Ico was getting some attention. Sancho's ambitions were modest, since he could only practice a couple of hours a few nights a week. His ultimate goal was to get a sub 140, which would put him in 2nd place on the PS3 leaderboard. It would take him less than a month to reach that goal, On May 5th, 2020, he submitted his first run to speedrun.com. It was a 1 hour, 40 minute, and 2 second time. He was already in second place for the PS3 platform. Then, only 5 days later, he got a 1:37.29, beating his goal by 2.5 minutes. The time itself, and how quickly he reached it, turned heads in the community, and others expressed interest in learning the run. This was all the encouragement Sancho needed. He immediately began releasing tutorials, sharing everything he'd learned up to that point from studying every other run on the leaderboards. He broke the game up into 6 chunks, describing the basics of the run, as well as the discovery he's most proud of, making death jumps 100% consistent by using the D-pad. Yes, Sancho loves the D-pad. Over the next 3 months, the PS3 leaderboard went from only 4 runners up to 9, but Sancho can't take all the credit. ICO was getting a lot more attention because the PAL 50Hz version was slated for an appearance at SGDQ 2020, featuring the world record holder for that category, Bucci. So what is it that makes that version so unique? It's the fact that ICO wasn't designed for 50Hz, so a curious thing happens when he swings his stick right after a running jump. ICO yeets. And when he does that yeet while his foot is raised...
Yay! I
can't believe that was first try.
Yeet jumps allow PAL runners to skip about 40% of the game and bypass multiple shadow encounters, either by breaking the puzzles in a given section, such as the dark room and windmill puzzles, or by skipping some sections altogether, such as pretty much all of East Arena, and a lot of West Arena too. You can hear the playful bitterness in Sancho's voice as he breaks down the biggest skip for us here during Bucci's run.
So with this one little jump, you're skipping the puzzle to get to the whole waterfall, the waterfall, the water mill, the elevator, the water tower, 17 minutes of gameplay. Which is why I've nicknamed these death jumps, Bucci, I hate you, why did you break my favorite game jumps?
It's a good name.
Bucci started running ICO 50Hz back in July of 2015, and her first submitted run was a time of 1:42.59, as part of a challenge to try to learn a new speedrun in just 12 hours. She enjoyed it so much that she kept at it, and in the next 19 days dropped it down to a 56.46. She was going for a sub 1 hour real time, but... While Bucci focused her attention elsewhere, a runner named Benko stepped in, adding a couple new optimizations. On March 10, 2016, he took first place by a mere 16 seconds, but Bucci was in no hurry to get back. Like Shizuku, she ran the game because she enjoyed it, not because she wanted the world record. Still, when she did return in August of 2018, she added Benko's innovations and shaved her time down yet another 2 minutes. But she wasn't done yet. Picking the game up to once again practice for SGDQ, on July 31st, 2020, Bucci shaved almost another 2 minutes, this time by adding some PS3 tricks into her repertoire. Her final time was a blazing 52-minute, 43-second run. Now, you're probably wondering, if this version of the game is so much faster than the 60Hz version, why don't more people run this category? Well, her setup for running it might give you a little bit of a hint. First off, it has to be a PS2 PAL version of the game, and played on a monitor that can display a 50Hz input. So, unfortunately, it's not nearly as accessible as the PS3 version, which is the same in every region. Thus, as exciting as the run is, as amazing as Bucci was in displaying it at SGDQ, and as entertaining as their commentary was...
Done.
You stabbed her?
Yep.
The end result was even more people turning to the version they could run, the PS3 version.
Yeah,
and it's also a big honor for me, like getting commentated by Bucci and Sancho. Because your run at, I think it was Summer Games Done Quick, actually got me into speedrunning this game.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Bucci, he's our son.
Thanks, Mom and Dad.
As more and more people popped into the Discord to try their hand at Eco, all the while Shadow the Colossus was still going strong, and Sable Dragonrook helped the Last Guardian crowd grow with tutorials of her own, the community took on a whole new life. They began to participate in marathons which featured all 3 Ueda games back to back. They started having races on their own dedicated Twitch channel, fueled by Team Eco Discord veterans Azuma and Tic Tac. So between the tutorials, the marathon runs, the races, and the fun-loving nature of the community, Eco went from having 9 total runs on the leaderboard in 2020 to having 30 run total ones, which includes 3 runs in co-op mode, where the second player controls Yorda. Yeah, you really should check out the world record for co-op mode by Gorister and Vexel. It's pretty amazing. New runners also meant new eyes on the game, and the potential to find new strats. For instance, Mars 9 worked out a way to guarantee more efficient jumps by setting them up with bunny hops. This saved time by avoiding longer climbing animations for Eco when he couldn't quite jump high enough from a regular running jump. Sancho found a couple places where D-pad jumps could improve over Karakusa's mechanics, such as skipping a ladder in the chandelier room more consistently, and doing a couple scary-looking jumps at the stone pillar segment to get to the next ledge just a little bit faster. The snake noticed that there was often some downtime during the shadow fight at the stone pillar between spawns, and that time could be used to sneak in a few cube pulls towards the next lever pull. Pete Dorr found a way to minimize the chance of Yorda chasing birds in the watermill section by pulling the cube differently than by activating her concerned mode while falling from the water lever, so she'd run to meet Eco without having to chase her down. JK worked out a way to make the West Arena bomb toss consistent by walking head-on into the opposite wall and bouncing it backwards instead of trying to time the toss while walking. These minor improvements shaved a few seconds here and there, but the biggest discovery happened when a runner named Brand New turned a dead run into a PB by having a ridiculously fast 53 Shadows fight. It was 10 seconds faster than Mr. Eco's great fight, which no one had even seen yet, by the way. But more importantly, it was 46 seconds faster than Karakusa's fight. This was the glimmer of hope, the weak point in the armor, that no one knew existed before. Now, theoretically, to get the world record, one didn't have to be faster than Karakusa, just not too far behind him leading up to the shadow fight, and then have a great fight to make up the difference. Now this is easier said than done, not just because of how good Karakusa's run is, but also because of how the shadows in this fight behave, or rather, misbehave. Missing an opportunity to hit a single shadow can eat away a lot of time, as they sometimes swoop away and do some circles before returning to the battle. We call them swoopers. Also, on occasion, a shadow will get glitchy pathing and get stuck running into a wall. These shadows have to be chased down, which eats up a lot of time as well. We call them skaters.
He went right back there! Stop skating!
Between the two, many have felt the angst of a PB slipping away as both swoopers and skaters interrupt the rhythmic cascade of shadows eager for a final disembodiment. The difference between a good fight and a bad one could be well over a minute, making this fight feel like the final boss, as the queen fight that follows is much more predictable. If it wasn't for the great music, it would almost feel anticlimactic. That's because, in the queen fight, the sword always deflects to the same places in the same order. Right by the stairs, left towards the back, left by the stairs, left against the wall, and right in the far back. A bad fight will only lose a few seconds, but the 53 Shadows fight has the potential to save a bad run or ruin a great one. Nevertheless, the Eco Speedrun community finally dared to dream that one day someone might take the world record. But who would do it? Who would be the one to take the ring to Mordor? I mean, beat the perfect run. For a good while, Sancho Panda held the title of second place on the PS3 leaderboard pretty easily, steadily improving his time as he helped other runners learn the game. Within a month of his first run, Sancho had shaved his PB down to a 1:33.46, and he needed a new goal, so he set his sights on beating Magette's PS2 time of 1:32.54. On July 23, 2020, he reached Yorda on the beach with a 1:32.33, only 4 minutes away from Karakusa's world record run of 1:28.36. As happy as he was with that time, all he could talk about after the Queen Stab was the ways the run could be improved, especially the 53 shadow fight.
Oh man, we lost 40 seconds in that shadow fight. 40 seconds! Oh my gosh, guys.
However, other runners began to give Sancho a run for his money. Two early new runners, Tic Tac and Brand New, took up Ico together and started a friendly rivalry. While Tic Tac divided his time between learning Ico and still running Shadow of the Colossus.
Okay, thank God I saved, because I did the stupid thing here after announcing to not do the stupid thing here.
Brand New focused solely on Ico, and it showed. He started improving at a rapid pace. It took Brand New less than a month from when he submitted his first run to also beat Magette's time, with a final time of 1:32.51 on July 31st, 2020, just 1 week after Sancho had done it himself. Discord comments were eager to point out his rapid improvement and natural talent for the game. Yes, the fight for second place was indeed getting spicy. And if you're wondering if Sancho was feeling any pressure, just listen to his victory speech when he got another PB the very next day of 1:31.28.
I won't always be in second place, but today I still I'm ashamed of how much it means to me, with Brand New, with his gorgeous face and his young fingers breathing down my 42-year-old neck.
That speech says a lot. Obvious man crush aside, Sancho saw Brand New's potential, and was genuinely sad that Brand New's next PB of 1:32.44 ended up being his last submitted run to date. But at the same time, a new challenger was charging up the ranks, one with a much lengthier resume in speedrunning. Enter Pete Dorr. Among the many games Pete Dorr ran, he already had a 50Hz version of Ico under his belt. Ico is also his all-time favorite game, and that enjoyment translated to some amazing runs. 17 days. That's all it took for Pete Dorr to go from his first submitted run to also beating Magette's time with a 1:32.12 on August 11th. 4 days later, he got a 1:31.32, only 4 seconds away from Sancho's personal best. Meanwhile, Sancho was having a spell of bad RNG in his runs. Again, the Discord was chiming in to see who'd come out on top, even if Pete Dorr and Sancho were looking at it as a group project to maybe one day finally beat Karakusa. 3 days later, Pete Dorr passed Sancho on the leaderboards with a 1:31.12 that included an amazing graveyard fight skip, but it also had a messy stone pillar fight, a missed jump at the watermill, and a subpar 53 shadow fight. So it could have been even better. This was unexpected. To be closing in on the world record while still seeing huge potential time saves added a big boost of confidence. While the runners themselves still spoke of Karakusa's time with reverence, onlookers felt free to talk just a little bit of smack. It took Sancho 10 days to reclaim second place. The run had a sloppy start, something Sancho was kind of known for by now, because he often started runs without any warm-up and usually opted to finish his runs rather than restart them at the first sign of trouble. But the run finished with 4 gold splits, including his best ever shadow fight. His time was a 1:30.29, now less than 2 minutes away from Karakusa. It was a time he'd never even dreamed of when he first started running. And he was ready for an extended break from Ico, so he could try speedrunning some other games. Coincidentally, on the same day as Sancho's PB, a new runner named Mars9 submitted his first run. Mars9's progress was slower than Brand New and Pete Dorr's, but what he lacked in experience he made up for with time and effort. His runs spread out over 8 months, and on February 4th, 2021, Mars9 got a 1:31.07.
Did I do it? Did I beat Pete?
Beating Pete Dorr's PB by 5 seconds and sliding into 3rd place.
We did it, boys! We did it! Sancho, do you hear this? I'm coming for you, my friend.
It's at that point that I had my own part to play. Mars9 was looking a little too cozy in 3rd place, so I took it upon myself to beat him with a 1:30.52 on February 11th. I mean, sure, he took it back the next day with a 1:30.45, but more importantly, now both of us were less than 30 seconds away from Sancho's PB. You know that phrase, don't poke the bear? Yeah, well, don't poke the panda bear either. On March 10th, Mars9 had an amazing run with a very strong finish. His final in-game time was a 1:30.05. He beat Sancho's previous PB by 24 seconds. Congratulations would have been in order, except Sancho had come out of hibernation and had already beat his own PB the day before. And once again, he had a slow start, even though he had dedicated the stream to improving his opening segment and only had splits for it up to the main gate. On top of this, he had a bad break at the watermill, and it didn't help that he was just goofing around in the darkroom.
Yeah, I just wanted to try it.
With no late-game RTA splits, Sancho had no idea what to expect.
Yes! Yes! PB had a victory, baby.
That's just 50 seconds away from beating Karakusa. If that wasn't enough incentive, Mars9 took it upon himself to add a little trash talk as well. A month later, on April 7th, Sancho reached yet another milestone, taking true second place by beating Mr. Ico's unsubmitted run of 1:29.06. His early splits show that he had worked hard on improving the beginning of his runs. But Yorda still had to take her time tax, like before the bomb toss to enter the graveyard, at the windmill where she chased a bird, stalling for no reason before the watermill section, not coming right away when Ico calls in the gondola section, and in a couple parts of West Arena. She was just weird. Also, the shadows at gondola nearly cost him the whole run, as did the ones in the West Arena Skybridge.
Get up, just get up, just get up, just get up. We got it, we got it, we got it. Oh, we lost so much time. Those punks.
And if we're being honest, Sancho was still a little bit rusty. Yet, with all those time losses...
56. 21 seconds.
So, just 21 seconds to go. And all you needed was better Yorda, right? Well, no. Because you still need to get every RNG shadow skip. Which doesn't happen every run, or even every other run. You can get them all in a couple runs in a row, and then go weeks without getting them all again. Once you're in the sub 130 range, getting an Eco PB is grinding while waiting for lightning to strike, then hoping to keep it together to the end. Better mechanics can shave down a lot of your time, but it can't overcome the cost of a failed skip or certain types of Yorda RNG. So for instance, take this practice run Sancho did without splits a couple weeks earlier. It has a miserable fail of a sunbeam skip that cost him about a minute and a half. At the end, I guessed it would be a 1:30.44.
We lost a lot of time at sewer. Hey, what? We lost well over a minute in sewer.
Yeah, without that failed sunbeam skip, that's the new world record. And for the next month or so, it seemed like every good run Sancho did had that one or two things go wrong that kept the world record just out of reach.
Good job, game!
On April 26th, Sancho did an off-stream run that had a great graveyard skip. By the time he reached the West Skybridge skip, he was already ahead of Karakusa's time by 8 seconds. But then, Yorda let go of Ico's hand and threw off Sancho's rhythm, and it cost him 32 seconds. The final time was a 1:28.42, just 7 seconds away from the world record. Sancho was so disappointed, he never even submitted this run to the leaderboards or uploaded it to Twitch or YouTube, even though it was a PB by 14 seconds. On May 23rd, he had an amazing run going, this time running against world record pace splits. The RNG was pretty much the best you can have, both Yorda and the shadows, and Sancho found himself 30 seconds ahead of pace at the water tower section.
No! I never die there. RIP run.
2 days later, Yorda was up to her old tricks again. She chased a bird at the staircase. She shook her head at the windmill. She stalled at the sunbeam skip. She sauntered to the stone pillar platform. Who knows what the heck she was doing at East Arena? And by the time Sancho reached the East Skybridge doors, he was 42 seconds behind Karakusa's run. But then, Sancho got the ladder drop that Karakusa had failed, and now he was only 31 seconds back entering the windmill section. He did a better job handling the shadow at the gondola, made sure not to miss the chain jump at the water tower, and by the time he entered West Arena, he was only 28 seconds back. And here, Sancho had a trick up his sleeve. A way to do the bomb puzzle at the West Idle Stairs that he'd developed by combining an early drop he learned from a John Beaver's 2018 run, Karakusa's death jump, and JK's bomb toss. After a dicey Skybridge skip, Sancho was only 8 seconds behind the world record. Now, his new nemesis, the elevator, went smoothly. As did the journey back to the main gate, the parkour sections under the castle, the cliffs, well, mostly, and the journey down to the Queen Sword. All that was left was the 53 shadows and the Queen. Sancho chose the risky strat he'd developed of being more active in the shadow fight. When he could, he chased down shadows that were hovering. This could really speed up the fight, but it also encouraged swoopers. In the end though, the gamble paid off, and Sancho's fight ended up being 36 seconds faster than Karakusa's. All that was left was